So, Avengers Doomsday cast has been revealed. We had the chair thing, the whole publicity stunt. People have talked about it a lot. Um, and let's talk about it. I don't know. I think generally, I don't really care about the X Men coming back. I think we've said goodbye to them a lot. Like the whole timeline with them is weird, and I'm kind of over the multiverse thing where we pull in characters from other cinematic universes. Um, it's just been not super fun. We've already done that so many times with Doctor Strange 2. We've done that at the end of the Marvels. We've done that at Spider-Man No Way Home, and we've had that with like Loki and stuff a little bit here and there. And I'm kind of over it, but it is an Avengers movie, and I won't lie, like that announcement, it got me hyped. And so, um, yeah, I think a lot of people already have their predictions and ideas and thoughts. But I kind of wanted to talk about how this looked like in comparison to the Infinity War cast, because I think you can see the Russo brothers coming back and just like the way that they're approaching it with Doomsday and then Secret Wars, kind of like a two-part thing. It'll be similar to like Infinity War and Endgame, like that experience. And in Infinity War, like they had 26 people in their main cast. Like in terms of when you look on Wikipedia and like the actors with the bullet points, Infinity War had 26 actors there, and Doomsday has 27. And so I think with like the similarities of how the Russo brothers approach ensemble films and just how like they're going to use them and how like casting and billing kind of works, I think you can kind of draw a lot from Infinity War in terms of like how they're going to handle a story with such a large cast in Doomsday. Like overall, six actors, like main actors, are returning from Infinity War, like not including RDJ. We have Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, and Tom Hiddleston. And like of those people, Chris Hemsworth is the only main player who like will be carried over from that. And I think it'll be interesting because like yeah, just incredibly new slate here. But anyways, going back to the Infinity War Doomsday kind of comparisons, Infinity War, like they broke teams up into pods, right? The Russo brothers and Marcus and McFeely, they talked about like strange alchemy, like the idea that we have interesting combinations of characters that we haven't seen interact together before, and like that was kind of something that drove the writing process for Infinity War and Endgame, but mostly Infinity War, right? And I think this worked well because all the characters were so well defined by Infinity War, and like they were also so well known by the audience, right? And this time, I don't think that would work as well, like the strange alchemy kind of approach, because we don't really know any of these characters, right? And but I think they'll still probably break things up into teams, and each team like fight some sort of proxy war. And with the full cast, like you've heard it read all like a bunch of times before, but basically we have like the Fantastic Four, we have the Fox X-Men group, we have the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers, Secret Avengers, New Avengers, whatever you want to call them, and then we have everyone else, which probably gives us a view of like what the new Sam's Avengers on Earth will be like. And I like to assume that like the Fantastic Four is going to play a role similar to Doctor Strange in Infinity War. Like he was the one who like had the exposition of all the Infinity Stone stuff, and he's like more knowledgeable of what's going on. He has like a grander view of kind of the problem, right? And seeing that like the Fantastic Four is coming from a different universe, and they'll probably have some connection to Doom. They're probably going to come in, interact with Sam's Avengers, and tell them like, "Yo, like this is what's going on," and maybe even we'll have like splitting up groups where like half of the Avengers go with like half of the Fantastic Four, and like another half go with the other half, and like mixing and matching in those two groups, which will be interesting to see, I think. But I don't feel like it doesn't feel like the X-Men are going to be one of those major main groups doing a thing. I don't see them being that integral to the story, because I think it would just, for general audiences, like I think like Marvel still is trying to obviously make 4-quadrant films that can be blockbusters, that can be easily understood, and like I don't see them being a major role in that because of just like the homework that you would have to do. Like I think we'll see them probably at the midpoint or like midway through the movie, similar to like when we see the Illuminati like being introduced in Multiverse of Madness, but probably having a little bit larger role than just like dying immediately to Wanda. But if you compare the cast billing, which I don't like by any means, I don't think that this is the final billing order for Doomsday, but it does seem like it could be something close to that, especially with the way like Pedro Pascal was at the end, Robert Downey Jr. is at the end. Like they'll probably get the and with credits, but like if you kind of just compare the list, like the X-Men are around the area of where the Guardians were for Infinity War. Like it seems like one or two are gonna have big roles, like Gamora and Star-Lord, big roles in Infinity War. And so maybe like we'll have, Magneto and Professor X having big roles, and the other ones are kind of just like there, not really present, but like they're on screen fighting alongside them, but like no real actual stuff. Maybe a cool interaction here and there. So that's kind of my thoughts. Like maybe like the X-Men will play like a Guardians size role in Doomsday, and I hope that they're not like huge big main players on the same level as like the Fantastic Four or the Avengers. But I think what's really interesting is a lot of main players in projects post Endgame, like they didn't make it. There are a lot of exclusions, right? And I see this more of like Marvel introduced way too many random characters rather than like, oh, this isn't even like an Avengers movie with a full roster, you know? Like it feels interesting because like if you were from a TV show, like you're not here. Disney Plus people, the only like person from Disney Plus is literally Wyatt Russell's John Walker, which I think is really interesting. And I think they kind of know that like that the Disney Plus shows didn't really work out. They saw that with the Marvels movie, it just didn't kind of translate over. People weren't really feeling it. But also, yeah, like if you're from a movie flop, you're not here. Like She-Hulk, not here. Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, Eternals, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, they're all not here. And I think that's interesting. And all of the exclusions that like people are like clamoring about or wondering about are all heroes that we knew about and cared about before Endgame. Like people are like, "Where's Wanda? Where's Spider-Man? Where's Doctor Strange? Where's the Guardians? Where's the Hulk?" Even like Deadpool and Wolverine, those are people that we cared about before Endgame, right? Like, and I think that like that's just like revealing at like how poorly the MCU has done at introducing characters that we've like become invested in like the post Endgame era. But I think for all these characters, like it's confusing because we don't really know what's going on with them, and I can also like just see a version of this movie where like they're not here. Like Wanda's kind of dead, but not really, and White Vision just kind of flew off, but we just don't really know anything about him. Like I don't know if Vision Quest is ever gonna happen. Doctor Strange, I think it could make sense that he's not here. Like he's away with Charlize Theron, like Clea doing something in the Dark Dimension. Like they could very much like just be doing off on their own adventure in a similar like Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of way thing. The Guardians are all like semi-retired, and like who even knows what like the Hulk and Deadpool and Wolverine and War Machine are doing, you know? They're all like there and kind of available, but like maybe not with a clear like runway on how to get into Doomsday. And so I don't know, yeah. Like I could see both like Doomsdays where like they're not gonna show up, none of them are gonna show up, but also like where they feel randomly shoehorned in. It was recently announced that Spider-Man 4 is gonna be Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it seems like it's gonna be taking a place during the events of Doomsday, and so I can see like Spider-Man just doing his own thing and that leading into Secret Wars. But yeah, I think another thing, by process of elimination, it looks like we have the Avengers roster based on just the actors, right? We have Captain America, Thor, Shuri Black Panther, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, and Falcon Joaquin Torres. And this is just like a terrible, terrible weak team of Avengers. Like Thor, I think like with Ragnarok, Thor became a lot more popular, and then Infinity War, people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool! We really like him." And then some people liked, and some people didn't really like the fat Thor thing in Endgame. And then once like Thor: Love and Thunder came around, like it just felt like, oh, like this is like it felt like he had his rise from grace, and now he's like kind of back down to like we're like, man, whatever. I don't think anyone's really like clamoring to see Thor come back. Like of the three like Marvel Trinity, like Thor was always the one who was like maybe not as liked, I think. Shuri Black Panther, everyone has their problems with her. Ant-Man, like Ant-Man should have died in Quantumania, and like Paul Rudd is cool and he's like fun, but I don't see him as a main like heavy hitter player in like he's not a big time Avenger for me. Like he seems very much like a B team kind of guy, even though like I know in the comics he was a really special founding member. Shang-Chi, I'm excited. Finally good to see him back after like I think it's crazy that they did not get another movie or like project for him after 2021. Like I was not the biggest fan of the movie, but like it was clear that he was fun, he was into it. Like Simu Liu like wanted to come back and be there, and like the action was cool and people liked it and enjoyed it. So yeah, it's good that he's there. Falcon Joaquin Torres, I really don't like him. I think he's annoying. I don't think he should be here. He like if Ant-Man is like a B-list character, like Falcon Joaquin Torres is like a D-list. I don't want him here. I think it makes sense that like Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk is not here. I think the show wasn't very good, but like the character, I think in a world where she's not in like this goofy dumb sitcom on Disney Plus, I think she could be a cool like ensemble character, and I'm surprised that like they didn't bring her in, but it makes sense. So yeah, it also seems like all the Thunderbolts survive except for Taskmaster, which we kind of already knew that Taskmaster is going to die mad early in that movie. So I don't know. I think that's interesting. And I think like the last kind of thing about like the roster, like this cast roster, is like at the time of the release of Infinity War, like the main cast of Infinity War had been in a total of like 76 movie appearances before like Infinity War, right? Like RDJ had 7, Chris Evans and Hemsworth both had 5. Even homies like Anthony Mackie. Anthony Mackie was in 5 projects before he came into Infinity War, and he was like a low level guy in Infinity War, right? Like, I did the math. Like that's an average of 2.92 movie appearances per character, right? And at the time of release for Doomsday, their main cast will only have been in 66 movies. Hemsworth is going to be at 8. Mackie and Stan are going to be at 7 apiece. But if you remove like Hemsworth, RDJ, Mackie, Stan, and Tom Hiddleston, like all actors who have been like major players in the Infinity Saga, right? Like you're left with 22 characters, 22 actors who have been in 28 movie appearances. That's 1.27 movie appearances per character. And like obviously a lot of numbers, whatever. But like in Infinity War, only Benedict Cumberbatch, Peter Dinklage, Benedict Wong, and Palm Clementif entered into Infinity War with 1 or less movie appearances. For Doomsday, you'll have Vanessa Kirby, Wyatt Russell, Tina Huerta, Eben Moss-Bacharach, Simu Liu, Kelsey Grammer, Louis Pullman, Danny Ramirez, Joseph Quinn, Hannah John Kamen, Pedro Pascal, and all of the X-Men characters with 1 or less movie appearances. And like, yeah, like as of right now, as I'm recording this, we have not seen 10 of the main 27 cast for Doomsday in the MCU movie yet. Like, that's a lot of numbers, but like I just think the lack of cultural awareness that people have of these characters and who they're about, like what they are, like it's just not the same. And so I think that's like the major concern, especially when you're trying to also introduce Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom here. Obviously, it's likely that he'll be in a post-credit scene for maybe Fantastic Four or something like that. But I don't know. It's hard to see how this works, and it's also difficult because we know this is not Plan A at all. And so I don't know. I've been thinking about like how Doomsday would actually work, and like a lot of people are talking about the 2015 Hickman Secret Wars run, where basically Doctor Doom goes to steal the power of, I think, the Beyonder or Molecule Man, I forget who it is, and use that power to reshape the world to avoid incursions and kind of basically turn it into God Emperor Doom world. Basically, yeah, like we have 2 universes colliding in incursion, and like the universes are fighting each other, and they realize like, oh, like I don't know, like we can't really win. Someone's gonna have to die, and Doctor Doom makes the heavy call, the hard call to be like, well, if both of them are gonna die, I'm just gonna recreate this universe in one where like, you know, I'm best fit. And that seems to be like the midpoint of like, if the Thanos snap was the thing that kind of separated Infinity War and Endgame, it seems like Doom creating a new universe will be that separation. And once we get into Secret Wars, then we'll get like this new different kind of alternate world where like Doom is on top and stuff like that, and basically like a Flashpoint kind of thing. But for that to happen, it seems like Doom would not be directly an antagonist for this first movie, which would be interesting to see. And maybe it's just like the colliding worlds, and we're gonna have to fight like Avengers versus X-Men, which is like fine. Like I just don't feel like the emotional stakes are as much there, mostly because like I don't really care about most of the Avengers that are here now, and I also like the X-Men. I'm like, oh, like they're cool, but I also know that they're not going to be long term here, anyways. You know, I also think that like it could like lessen the impact of the new X-Men. Like like part of me wants just like a clean slate of like, we got new X-Men in the MCU, and like that's how we're doing this, and that's where we're going. I don't know. Those are kind of thoughts. It just feels like, why? Don't get me wrong. I got mad excited. I was watching that stream throughout the entire time. But it feels like an announcement with a lack of substance. So yeah, we'll see if we get more news upcoming. I think that first trailer is going to really reveal so much. We'll probably get like some leaks, some photos, because they're starting shooting and they're in production now. But yeah, as of now, not extremely like optimistic on this one.